Today we're talking about snipers. This video is brought to you by Kristen, who wanted to give a shout out to all Navy corpsmen, past, future, and present. Hollywood does a terrible job at portraying this job. It is way less romantic and way more hardcore than most of the movies. Hollywood has a terrible way of making it seem like being a sniper is just a natural talent. There's nothing natural about being able to give somebody a long-range lobotomy from 1.5 miles away while you're dressed like a bush. This is a lot more hard work and developed skill than it is natural talent. First of all, Hollywood makes a spotter here, the guy with the telescope, seem like he's a sniper's caddy. He's not. He is also a sniper. You see, snipers function in pairs and they switch off on rolls to avoid eye fatigue. Hollywood also makes it seem like they just put the crosshairs on the bad guy and pull the trigger. That is not what happens. Before anybody ever pulls a trigger, they're doing calculations on every force of nature that can impact the flight of a bullet. And I mean everything, like the wind, distance to the thoracic cavity they're trying to ventilate, gravity, humidity, the Coriolis effect, which is the effect the rotation of the Earth has on a bullet in flight. What I'm trying to tell you is these guys know they're going to hit the target before they even pull the trigger. Because fucking science. Because you see, snipers are made up of the most dangerous thing in the universe. Grunts that know how to do math. Now, I talk a lot about grunts. These grunts have a special place in my heart. These grunts are willing to crawl 0.5 mile an hour for 3 days to get to a target, just because Uncle Sam wants to make the shit personal. I mean, think about it. If the sniper can see you, Uncle Sam has other ways he can make you go away forever. And he can just call up the Air Force and put warheads on foreheads and be done with it. But nah. He's gonna let Bill Nye the Science Grunt take you out with a single bullet. I mean, the most commonly used sniper round is 7.62 by 51 millimeters, or as they call it on the moon, 308. That's like 68 cents a round. I'm trying to tell you, Uncle Sam's about to unalive you off the dollar menu. Yeah, science grunts will put bad guys in the dirt 2 for $1. But that's assuming they're using the standard 308. You see, if you upset the science grunts, maybe they'll break out this monstrosity of engineering. I present to you the 50 cal Barrett. You see, this one up here is a 308. This is a 50 cal round. This rifle shoots a round so big that it's not even considered anti-personnel. It's considered anti-material. See, if you get hit with a 308, you're gonna get a death certificate. You get hit with this double fister, you're not just gonna die. You're gonna be unborn. I'm trying to tell you, Galileo over here is gonna revoke your birth certificate from a different zip code. That's just the boomstick. The real weapon are the grunts. Those savages are willing to lay down for literal days at a time in a puddle of their own piss to hunt down the bad guys. These guys are so good at their job, they only shoot in between their heartbeats, because the beat of their heart might influence their trigger pull and make them miss. These guys have vision so clear they can see what the bad guy's lunch tastes like from 1.5 miles away. I mean, technically you don't have to have 20/20 vision to be a sniper, but it's kind of an unwritten rule. I mean, think about it. There's no rule against being an Amish electrician, but come the fuck on. In conclusion, if you upset Uncle Sam enough, you very well may have a guy in a George W. costume unalive you with an anti-material cannon. Today we're talking about that time in World War II when the Marine Corps decided they didn't like their standard issue machine gun, so they went ahead and built their own. Ladies and gentlemen, the M2 Stinger. Created from the parts of 3 other guns, this Frankengat weighs in at 25 pounds, not including the 100 rounds of ammunition hanging off the side of it. I'm trying to tell you this is a reasonable weapon for concealed carry. Speaking of concealed carry, Speaking of shooting bad guys, the M2 is capable of firing 1,200 rounds per minute. That is 20 freedom seeds per second. And when I say freedom seed, we're talking about 30-06. That's one of the recommended rounds if you wanted to go hunting bears, and you're gonna fire 20 of them in a second. Look, if you upset the Marine holding this thing, you better hope your family's like Pepperidge Farm, because the only thing they're gonna be able to do is remember.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
You're gonna be holier than the Pope, and the next text message you get's gonna be from a fucking Ouija board. So how did this monstrosity of a grunts and crafts project even become a thing? You see, it all started in 1943 during the Pacific Campaign. The Marine Corps didn't actually have a light machine gun. They were equipped with the Browning Model 1919, which is a great machine gun, but it's also very heavy. It required 2 men to carry it. One guy had to carry the gun and the ammunition, another guy had to carry the tripod and spare parts. And then once a firefight did start, you had to mount the machine gun to the tripod, then get the ammo in it, then start returning fire, all while probably getting shot at from a fortified enemy machine gun position. It was definitely not ideal. Then the Marines would come across a salvage yard with some airplanes in it. In those airplanes were the Browning Model 1919, but these were the aircraft variant that had almost double the fire rate. So Marines being Marines decided that they would strategically transfer that equipment to an alternate location. Once at that alternate location, they equipped it with the butt stock of an M1 Garand, a custom homemade trigger, the bipod of a BAR, and then mounted a 100-round ammo can directly on the side of it. This now had double the fire rate of their normal Model 1919 and could be carried by one man as opposed to two, while being loaded, meaning that if they were ambushed, he could start firing right away. It could be fired from the hip or from a prone position using the bipod. Now, only 6 of these were officially known to have been made and used in combat, but it's pretty well documented that they were extremely effective against the enemy. In conclusion, while only 6 of them were ever made, they will be remembered probably forever, not only because they're fucking cool, but they are a shining example of all the weird, irregular shit the Marine Corps will do to kill a motherfucker. Because at the end of the day, the real weapon is the creativity and the ingenuity of the grunt. Seriously, the 2 most creative demographics on the planet, stoners that are trying to build a bong, and grunts that are trying to kill a motherfucker. Like, if Elon really wants to make it to Mars, all he has to do is tell the Marine Corps there's crayons and bad guys up there. The motherfuckers will be there by next week. They'll fucking walk there if they have to. Today we're talking about that time America built a plane that we could shoot out of another plane. It's like planeception. I present to you the smallest jet-propelled fighter plane of all time, the XF-85 Goblin. Speaking of mythical creatures that like gold, this video... Alright, we said it's small, but how small is it? This thing only comes in at 14 feet long, weighing 5,600 pounds. To put that into perspective, the F-18, you know, the one from the new Top Gun movie? That thing is 56 feet long and weighs 32,000 pounds. I'm trying to tell you that the Goblin is pretty average if you ask me. Okay, but really, it's cold at 48,000 feet, okay? Give it a break. I'm just gonna level with you guys. I'm really surprised I made it this far in the video without making a dick joke. Way more penetration than I thought I'd get. Okay, I'm done. Well, probably not, but we'll see how this goes. All right, so this was not a new concept. This has been around for a long time. It was called a parasite fighter. Basically, they would attach fighter planes onto the bomber and they would deploy the fighters if they had to defend the bomber. But why did America think they needed one in 1948 post-World War II? Well, you see, in World War II, most of our bombers and our long-range fighters had roughly the same range. So when the bombers went out on a bombing run, they had protection with them. Then America invented the B-36 Peacemaker, and it had way more range than any other plane in the American arsenal. And they hadn't quite figured out aerial refueling yet, so they figured, fuck it, we'll just bring the fighter with us. And the XF-85 Goblin is what they came up with. It's basically a flying crotch rocket that goes 650 miles an hour, has 4 50 caliber machine guns, no landing gear, and only an hour worth of fuel. They basically drop it out of the bottom of the plane, and then after the fight, if it survives, it hooks back up and they pull it back into the plane.
I have been chosen. Farewell, my friends. I go on to a better place.
Now, my favorite part about this plane, though, is how they named it. X stands for experimental because there was only 2 of these ever made and it never saw full service. F is the plane designation, so this is a fighter like the F-22 or the F-18. 85 is the model number, and after this baby drops out of the bottom of a plane and starts shooting the enemy with 4 50 caliber machine guns while going 650 miles an hour, Goblin is what the enemy's gonna be doing on D's nuts.
Got him!
Okay, that was a lie. This plane is made by McDonnell Aircraft, and they always name their fighters after mythical creatures like the F-4 Phantom or the F-2H Banshee. Now, the reason this plane never actually saw service was because there was a humongous problem getting it to safely rehook back up to the bomber to get pulled inside. As I'm sure you can imagine, when you're flying a plane that resembles a fucking gumball and weighs less than an SUV, and you're trying to pull it up right underneath a humongous plane like a bomber, there's a lot of turbulence. It also probably didn't help that the pilot had some of the biggest balls of steel of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, the only man to ever fly this plane was Ed Schock. This man was stationed on the USS Lexington in World War II and flew 46 combat missions in an F-6F Hellcat. He is credited with downing 4 enemies, 3 of which were in the same day at the Battle of Leyte Gulf. And he was also credited with landing a direct bomb hit on a Japanese carrier at the Battle of Leyte Gulf as well. So yeah, complete gangster, balls of steel, and I'm sure that came in handy because of the 7 test flights of the Goblin ever, he had to crash land it 4 times. The inability for the Goblin to safely reconnect to the bomber would be the final nail in the coffin, bringing the project to an end. All the research efforts would then get diverted to aerial refueling, and that was the world's last attempt at making a parasite fighter. Both prototypes actually survive to this day and can be visited. One is in the National Museum of the United States Air Force in Dayton, Ohio, and the other is in the Strategic Air and Space Museum in Ashland, Nebraska. Today we're talking about America's hottest new on-healthcare export, this monstrosity. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Vehicle-Agnostic Modular Palletized ISR Rocket Equipment, aka the Vampire. I'm gonna keep deadpanning like that didn't take me 35 tries. Really though, if you're gonna make an acronym that long, it needs to at least be funny. That acronym kinda sucked. Huh. Sucked. Vampire. Moving on. Okay, so what is it? It is literally a DIY kit that shows up on a pallet, and according to the brochure, 2 men in 2 hours can install it on any pickup truck, giving them what amounts to a miniature version of HIMARS. And as of August 22nd, 2022, America is going to start exporting these to countries that are allies or entities that have America's interest in mind. Or something like that. Okay, basically America's been sending out a lot of Javelin and Stinger missiles lately, and those are really expensive, so we made this as a cheaper alternative, and I'm not gonna lie, it's way fucking cooler. I mean, look at this thing. It looks like they gave Exhibit a DoD contract for the deadliest episode of Pimp My Ride. He found out the DoD liked guns, and he put the entire Second Amendment in the bed of their pickup. I mean, first of all, let's just address the elephant in the room. I keep saying any pickup truck. We all know I'm talking about Toyota. Even they know that. Look at the brochure picture. That is the official truck of guerrilla warfare right there. Their motto is, let's go places. Those places are wherever the front line takes us. So how much firepower did we really just cram into the bed of a Tacoma? I mean, how spicy is Toyotathon really gonna get? These are the important questions. Well, this thing can shoot 4 Hydra 70 rockets. Now, the reason they chose Hydra 70 rockets is because they're probably the cheapest munition that America uses. The downside of that being they're considered a dumb munition because you can't actually guide them. It's kind of a yeet and pray type situation when you fire a Hydra rocket. However, the Hydra rockets being used with the Vampire system are going to be equipped with a retrofit guidance module, which is going to allow the rockets to be laser guided from the little periscope right here. So for the rocket and the retrofit guidance module that goes on the rocket, you're looking at $22,000 per shot, which I think we can all agree is a lot of money, but when you're comparing it to the Javelin, which is over $200,000 per shot, it's significantly cheaper. I mean, for the same price, who would you rather be? These two guys walking around on foot with their $200,000 bazooka like they're spicy pilgrims? Or this absolute Chad that just gets to pull up to the side of the battlefield, throw up his periscope, launch 4 missiles, and take back off, all without even getting out of the air conditioning of the cab because he can do it from the computer in the dash. Not only is it going to be more convenient for the operator, it's also going to be more versatile because the Vampire system will be able to engage enemies on the ground and in the air. One of the primary reasons for the Vampire system being invented is actually to take out enemy UAVs. Bah! That's just like the military. So dumb. Shooting a $22,000 rocket at a $2,000 drone. Bah. You know, that's actually a great point if you don't think about it like at all. Hear me out. It's not about taking out the enemy UAV for the sake of taking out the enemy UAV. It's about taking out the enemy UAV before they can tell the enemy where your troops and where your equipment are. Because if you start taking accurate artillery fire, it's going to cost you a lot more than 22 grand and probably get a lot of people killed. In conclusion, I'm sure we're going to start seeing these in the news a lot more, and it's probably only a matter of time until some crazy motherfucker from Texas or Florida acquires one of these, mounts it on the back of their El Camino, and then uses it to go hunt hogs or iguanas. And that's the news article I'm looking forward to the most.